Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you so much again for your patience as we do take two of Find Your Future at Hamilton's Career Center panel. My name is Peaches Valdez. I'm the Dean of Admission, and we are so excited for you to join us this evening, again, possibly. I am joined with colleagues across campus and some of our student panelists to talk about the Career Center from the lens of how our students access the department's resources and prepare them for a life during Hamilton, at College Hill, and also afterwards. So let's get started with this evening's panelists. Janine, do you want to go first?
I'd love to. Thanks for persevering, folks, and for being here. I have to warn you, I get a little punchy as it gets later at night, so I'm hoping we have fun together today. I'm Janine Oliver. I am an Associate Director of Career Development, which basically means I'm a career advisor. I also oversee the career development curriculum, so all of the skill building stuff, and a team of 30 to 40 student staff who help teach workshops and do appointments, which is a really exciting part of my job. And I go by she, her pronouns. And a fun fact about me, I think my dress is a good indicator of this. It's a lemon dress. I like to make lemonade when there are lemons. And I believe strongly that every day can be the best day ever if you try to make it so.
Thanks, Janine. I also want to give a shout out to one of Janine's colleagues, Shauna Hirschfield, who's also available to answer questions, general questions about the Career Center, and also those regarding our alumni network and the Career Network. And she is actually going to be in the YouTube chat along with one of my colleagues in the admissions office. So, so feel free to ask your questions through there. We'll make sure to answer them throughout the evening. And then I'm going to have the students introduce themselves. So Rose, do you want to go first?
Sure, of course. Hi, my name is Rose. I am a junior here at Hamilton. I'm from Port Chester, New York. I am a double major in creative writing and Hispanic studies. Two activities I do on campus is I help teach Spanish to kids in the elementary school nearby. And I'm a writer for The Spectator. And my fun fact is that I did not have any social media until college, and I didn't have internet till junior year of high school.
Oh, wow. How about Ian? Why don't you go next?
Hi everyone, my name is Ian Dohill. I'm a junior at Hamilton College. On campus, I work as a peer advisor. Janine is my boss. She's a lovely boss. I also am a member of Tropical Soul, which is our teen dance group. And I also love to tutor voluntarily, like during weekends and stuff like that. I'm from Kenya. I'm a computer science major and a statistics minor. And a fun fact about me, I've had 1.5 days worth of layover in Dubai. That's the longest I've ever gone. It was such a wonderful experience.
Thank you, Ian. And how about you, Anna?
Hi, I'm Anna. I am a senior at Hamilton. I am an economics major, history minor. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm from Newton, Massachusetts. And on campus, I play Ultimate Frisbee. I also work under Janine, best boss ever. I can confirm that. And I also volunteer with our volunteer program called Havoc. So I go to nursing homes and kind of do social activities there. My fun fact that I thought of this morning was I have gone to the same school as 3 people of The Office, or 3 members of The Office, the TV show. So Jim and Ryan went to my high school and Toby went to Hamilton. So that's something I like to say.
Well, thank you, Rose, Ian, Anna, and Janine for joining us this evening. And thank you, Shauna, as well. We have we have a number of great questions prepared for you all. And if students have questions throughout the evening, please make sure to add them into the chat box to the right of your screen. And so just to kind of set the stage for this evening's conversation, layout of the evening, what we're going to do is Janine is going to provide an overview of the Career Center. And then we're going to move on to the student narratives. There is no single Hamilton experience, and so there's no single journey through the career post-college preparation. And so then we'll have Anna, Ian, and Rose talk about their specific journey. And finally, we'll end with some questions from the chat box and any lingering questions that you all have. So let's get started. So Janine, do you want to give us an overview?
Absolutely. So I'll try to be as broad as I can so that you get the big picture. But please feel free to ask questions so I can fill in some of the blanks of those things that you're really curious about. So our model at Hamilton, I think, is really special and has several layers. So one of those layers is that each student, when they start at Hamilton, is assigned a career advisor who will be their person for 4 years. That person acts as a generalist and helps from the beginning of thinking about what do you do with your time on campus? How do you figure out what you love and what you're good at? How might that all fit together? And gets to know students through the different stages and coaches them so that they can better access resources to learn about potential career paths. So on top of our team of advisors, we have a really robust set of career skills development programming. It follows a curriculum that focuses on 4 areas: know thyself, explore, communicate, and connect. And much of it is taught by a really talented team of peer advisors. So I have at least as much praise for them as they might have for me. But they do about 200 programs a year, ranging from awareness building and engaging students in their first steps to in-depth career skills development workshop. They do thousands of appointments a year with their peers. And I think part of the really nice touch of that is they lived that experience that the student is currently living not that long ago, and can really identify with where students are in their process. And I've seen some really great relationships built off of that model. We also have another large team of students who helps facilitate alumni programming on campus. So that team are event planners and great connectors with alums. They run about 80 programs involving over 150 alums over the course of a year. And that's a really great way to really get diversity of perspective into students' lives, right? You're going to learn better from the people who are out there in the real world doing jobs than from someone who sits at a college. And so we help with the skills to help students connect better with those real world examples. We also, of course, have job and internship postings, and we have employers who come to visit campus in person or remotely. One of the cool things about our model is how involved our alumni and parents of Hamilton students are in recruiting Hamilton students into their organizations. We recently, in the past few months with COVID and knowing how difficult it has been for some students to get formal opportunities, we launched a program called SNAP Internships, where alumni and parents offer brief project-based opportunities to students to get their foot in the door and get them experience somewhere. And that has been a really tremendously valuable program. So those are large parts of our model. Did I miss anything, folks, that you would fill in about our model in general? They're experts as much as I am. They do those day-to-day jobs. So I'm going to want to highlight the students here with us. And the reason we went with this model of having this group of students tell their stories is that to you, I think it matters most what a student experienced, how they took advantage of the resources, how we were able to help them along the way, and how they were able to help themselves, more than exactly, how someone makes an appointment or how many appointments we have a year or whatnot. But we have those facts for you if you want them later. So I'm going to ask you folks to jump in and tell us what you thought your future might be when you started Hamilton. Give us a sense of what you thought you wanted to do, how Hamilton has shaped that, and how it's developed along the way.
Yeah, so I can start. I went into my freshman year having absolutely no idea anything that I wanted to do. I knew that I loved history. That was my favorite subject in school. But I also knew that I liked numbers. I liked thinking about quantitative data and thinking about interpreting patterns and trends using data. And so it was obvious to me that I wanted to study history and economics. And so I, freshman year, took classes in history and economics and just totally fell in love with them. And one thing that was really cool is the open curriculum just let me go crazy with those classes and not have to worry about other things. But one thing that I did do was I I, from the beginning, was talking to my career advisor, and I realized that I was really interested in public health and consulting and kind of maybe an environmental impact based career. And so I've been kind of exploring that interest ever since, and talking to professors about what they're up to. And like, we have such small classes sometimes that you can get really close with your professors. So talking to them about any internship things that they think would be cool for me, or thinking about it with my career advisor, and just kind of going from there. And it's been really fun.
Yeah, I can jump in next. For me, I'd say being an international student, when I came here, I had no idea what was going on any front. So academically, socially, I had no idea what was going on. But I knew what I needed to do. Like, I knew I needed an on-campus job. I knew I needed to write a resume. Like, I had the basics, like, and I had mapped out my future path in the sense that I knew I was gonna do math as my major. I was gonna go to grad school, and then I was gonna go to postgrad or something like that. That was the rough idea I had when I came here. And then I remember the first resume I wrote when I was applying for my first job. I was pretty confident in it, but then when I had a meeting with the peer advisor, it was a very bad resume. But it was, I did well for my first resume. So I began to learn that the career center can be used for such things. Like, you can go there and have someone look over your resume, and have someone give you advice. With the whole math thing, I was pretty fixed on like being a math major. But then I was also taking a comp sci class, like, as let me just see how it will go. And it was pretty tough at first, but I had a meeting with Janine, who's my career advisor. She was like, just see how it goes till the end. And at the end of it all, at the end of the first semester, I ended up liking the class, which was really wonderful. So I switched and I decided to become a comp sci major, talked to one of my professors, as you're always being advised to network all the time. So I was like, let me see if I can get something going with my professor. And he was like, I have a research opportunity for you this summer. So I did research with him over the summer, and I found myself liking the statistics part of computer science, so data science, machine learning, all of that stuff. I ended up switching to statistics. So math, computer science, statistics, that was my journey up to now. Right now, this summer, I've been doing an internship in data science, and I've been really enjoying it. I think it ends this week. It has been a really wholesome experience. And as far as I can describe my Hamilton experience, I think might not be the end of me changing my mind about what I want to pursue. Because every time I think I have wanted to do something, something else has come up and has been more interesting. And without the career center, people to guide you and to tell you, keep an open mind about things, I wouldn't be able to, like, out of being stuck in one path. And it has been really great for me that I've been able to, like, pursue different paths from the moment I set foot here.
So I'm next. And coming into Hamilton, I was kind of lucky in the sense that I did kind of know what I wanted to do. I love to read since middle school, and you took English in high school, and you have teachers who are super supportive of me and who basically kept pushing me in that direction because they knew how much I love to read and they knew how much I love literature. So I knew I wanted to be a literature major of some sort, an English major, but Hamilton has two different categories. So they have literature and creative writing. So I didn't know which one I wanted particularly. I took classes in both, ended up on creative writing. So that has still stayed my passion. But I also took a Spanish course and met some really great professors, and it inspired me to actually decide to major in it as well, which has been great. But from the beginning, I always knew I wanted to go into publishing. In high school, I would say I could only ever see myself working with books for a living. And then I came to Hamilton, and that stayed true freshman year. But this past sophomore year, I actually had the opportunity to, through the Career Center, get in touch with some great alumni through emailing them and them agreeing to have an informational interview with me. And I learned about different aspects of the advertising community and of the marketing community. And through actually one of those interviews, I learned about this aspect of advertising called social impact advertising. which is basically advertising, but for different nonprofits, for, you know, great causes that I'm super passionate about. And I realized that that kind of career actually helps combine my, you know, my second major with my creative writing major. Because, you know, in advertising, I get to be creative. I get to, you know, try to spread the word about certain things through verbal and written manners. But I also get to use my other major, you know, learning about different minorities and underprivileged groups and help bring attention to those different causes. And I'm so grateful for the Career Center because I don't think I would have ever learned about that had I not had that one informational interview.
Cool. I love each of your approach, especially because there's such a range of how students come in, right? There are folks who are completely decided and they end up still decided on that same thing when they leave Hamilton. There are people who are completely decided and then they switch entirely. And sometimes that's a pleasant process. And sometimes that process is hard. And then there are folks who are somewhere in the middle who are like, I know these things about myself. I want to see how they fit in with other things. And I'm going to let the process shape me. And I'm just going to be curious about things. And I found, you know, from each of your stories and from knowing you that that you are all the curious type, right? Who are willing to have your mind changed and to let your experiences shape you, but also go out of your way to apply the things you know about yourself to what you might do in your future. So as I ask questions, if you find that you've already kind of filled in the blanks of this one, feel free to just say like, oh yeah, I touched on this a little bit. But my next one, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about the internships you've had along the way. And you know, any context you want to give us around that, whether it was the search process that stands out for you and not having understood it, but then you know, that having become clarified, or a great connection that you made that helped make it happen. So each of you, tell us a little bit about your career related experiences and kind of how they came to be, if you'd like.
Yeah. So after freshman year, I knew I was working at a day camp, and it's an inclusion camp for like about a third of the kids there have special needs. So it's a very high energy, high intensity job, but I knew that I just wanted to do something kind of career related. And so I ended up seeing, it was like something on social media, like a friend posted like, hey, the Brigham and Women's Hospital is looking for a social media intern. But I think that I had been to like Explore 101, which is one of these workshops that we present. And it was all about networking and all about kind of just making yourself really out, just being outward with like what you're interested in, and really utilizing the relationships that you form. And so I ended up reaching out to this person, and I was like, hey, I'm interested in a social media internship with you. And we got talking, like we had a phone call, and he realized that I was really interested in the public health field. And at that point I was pretty interested in public policy. And he was like, hey, like you should help us with this other project. So I ended up helping them with grant funding proposals, and it was the Center for Traumatic Injury Innovation. And so I was doing a lot of qualitative research on traumatic injury. I was doing like summarizing that. I was organizing this proposal, and I was working with the director of the center. And it was really cool because it started out as something so different, but I knew that once I had that conversation, I could talk about myself and be really honest with him, and just kind of make myself a little more marketable. I don't like to use that word, but like it's kind of what I was doing, and in a really like honest way, and it worked out really well. So I did that after freshman year. After sophomore year, I worked at the MIT Age Lab. And so there we worked with I worked with a team of like 15 researchers, investigating trends within the older adult population. So that might have been financial trends, housing trends, social trends. And in that, I was doing some data analysis, some qualitative research, and interviews with older adults. And I was also doing some field research, where I actually ended up putting on like a suit that makes you feel like an older adult. So like it messes with your balance, and it makes you it makes your vision a little more hazy, and it's nothing crazy, but it's like an empathy thing. And so the whole thing was really cool. I definitely used the peer advisors like all the time for the resume, for the cover letter, for networking emails. And I, at that point, was a peer advisor myself. So I was friends with them, and I just would text them and be like, hey, can you look over this? And they would help me out, which was really cool. This summer, I was accepted as a health consulting intern at Mercer in their DC office. Unfortunately, that was canceled because of coronavirus. So I ended up doing a remote learning program with them. Basically, a lot of what they were going to hopefully have done at the internship, but instead it was remote Zoom sessions. You know, obviously not what I like expected, not what any of us did, but it was really, really interesting, and I learned a lot. And I also was able to like honestly use that networking knowledge that I have and connect back with the Brigham and Women's, the director of the center there. And I've been doing some remote work with him and with the center, a lot similar to what I was doing freshman year, but a little bit different. So that's all of what I got. Yeah.
So Anna, I have a quick follow-up that came from the YouTube chat. The person says, I know Hamilton doesn't have an official public health major, but did your internships help enhance your understanding in the subject? And I'd just like to add to that, also, how did you use your academics to apply to that subject as well?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So we don't, but I was doing public health. I was learning about public health in my public policy class, in my honestly in my constitutional law class that I took. It was, you know, healthcare in the United States, and I also took biology of aging freshman year, and that was so cool because I knew I was interested in older adult populations and trends in that community. And again, it was the open curriculum that let me do that because I was not a biology major by any means, and so I was able to learn about public health in a vast, like a huge variety of classes. And I was just abroad last semester, but I know that there was a public health economics class offered. So I would have totally taken that. And otherwise, like, honestly, I had the research skills from my economics classes, you know, using Stata and SPSS and other software programs, Python from computer science. So like I had those research skills, and also from my history classes, I learned how to write. And so both of those things made me, I think, a really qualified candidate for all of these positions.
Awesome. Ian, were you going to jump in?
Yeah, I was going to jump in. So for me, I've had 2 career-related experiences so far. The first one was the research I mentioned, like I briefly mentioned earlier. It was research with my first computer science professor, David Parkins. We did research on neural networks, which is a machine learning model, which is basically you just learn some things like the brain. It's very complicated to explain in a matter of seconds. But it was a very fun research, and it's what made me interested in data science. So after that, I began to cause data science is not offered as a course here. So I began to teach myself. I got the necessary resources, and I was like, I feel with the knowledge that I have learned by myself, I'm ready to search for an internship or an experience in data science. But I was gonna hold it off until my junior year because I had another project lined up for my sophomore year. Then coronavirus happened and I was stuck on campus, and I was like, okay, now I need to do something for this summer. I began to apply for internships. I panicked and it was just mad. It was crazy. Everything was just rushing, but I got accepted into an internship. I'm like, yes, I'll take it. And it was really fun. The company is called Fokaya, which is what I've been doing this summer. I've had a bunch of different tasks. All of them have been data science related. And I think the thing that I've come to learn the most is that data science is a very wide field, and there's still a lot to learn for me, but then it's really fun. I've had a fun time trying to problem solve all the different tasks that I've been given. There have been different teams with very good people who have come to meet. The supervisor is very friendly. It has just been a wholesome experience. It has been a remote internship as well, which is my first time doing a remote internship. But then I don't think it really takes away from the whole experience because when it comes to coding, it's more or less like the same process, whether you're in an office or you're at home. At least that's my opinion on it anyway. So I'm looking forward to my next career-related experience. I don't know what it's gonna be, but I know it's gonna be exciting. Those are the two. Those are the two that I've had so far. And in terms of like the search experience, the first one was basically just by chance. I just networked with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I have this. Do you want it?" I said yes. And then the second one was also by chance in a certain way because coronavirus happened. But then I was like, okay, I need to apply. And if it wasn't for the things like I had learned from the careers and like how to write a good resume, how to write a good cover letter, how to do good interviews and all of that, I probably wouldn't have got it in the first place. So I think it has played a very instrumental role so far that I've come.
Yeah, and as for me, I've actually had 3 internships over the course of my college career. None of which, though, I received in quote unquote official means, in the sense where like none of these organizations had applications open on their website that said, you know, like a formal application where you send in references and X, Y, and Z. Actually, through the Career Center, I learned that if you're interested in an organization, might as well just email them and ask if they're willing to take you on and help you learn and give you projects so that you learn more about the different industries. So, which is why my freshman year, I remember I had no idea how to apply for internships, especially because I was just a freshman college student. Like, I didn't know exactly what I was qualified for. You know, I didn't know, I hadn't had too many extracurriculars yet where I was like super in depth and I had like an impressive title. But I emailed different local organizations that were a lot smaller. And I basically asked, hey, I'm interested in this general field and I would love to learn more about it. And I would absolutely love for you to take me on. And I would be a dedicated worker and I would just be excited to come to work every day. And so I remembered I emailed my local newspaper and I was really excited about it because I got an interview with them. I sent them my cover letter. I sent them the email with information about myself. It's more or less like a cover letter. It has cover letter-esque elements to it. And I sent them my resume and they're like, oh, this sounds great. And I remember I had an interview and it seemed well. Like she seemed excited to have me on. She seemed excited that I was excited. And then I remember I got an email from her a week afterwards. I was like, so turns out we can't take you on. And I remember being very disappointed about that. But then another organization, which I emailed as well, got back to me and they were just as excited to have me on. And it just takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of, you got to do a little bit of disappointment to get to a great opportunity because they were so incredible to me. And I actually still working with them this semester because they were just so kind and willing to help me out. They're a learning center in my area called Power Learning. And they basically have different learning software. And they help schools in the area all throughout the city, New York City, and all throughout my locality come use these programs and, help increase the literacy of the different schools. And I did things like I made posters for them. I made bios on all the different teachers they had working at the Learning Center. I got to talk with the different teachers. And we worked together on creating their bios. We worked together on creating like individualized posters for them. I did their social media. It was super great. I learned a lot. Again, they were so kind to me. And since I'm still working with them this summer, I actually got to use what will soon be my degree in 2 years, my Hispanic Studies degree, and I translated certain documents for them. So they gave me like instructions in English on how to use their different software programs. And I got to use my major to translate those documents into Spanish, which was really exciting for me because I never had something so official before that would be like handed out to different members of their communities. And then this summer, again, through similar means, I emailed local marketing agencies in my area. So I emailed this place called Eclipse Brand Partners and this other place called Why Not You Media. And they both got back to me and they were super excited again just to have someone interested in their organizations. And they asked me like how I got to know them. And I remember I was like, oh, I just Googled you and you seemed really cool and you were in my area. And like, I don't know. I just thought we'd be a good fit. A lot more, in much more eloquent terms. And the Why Not You media, after I sent them my resume, I sent them all my qualifications, and they made me the editor of like this blog that they were springing up. So in July, I believe it was, or no, June, sorry. They were starting up this blog where they have different interviews from different entrepreneurs in the area. And they made me the editor of that blog. So I've edited so many interviews. I think I've emailed at least 20, I believe, different interviews from different entrepreneurs in the area. They called it the head editor of their blog, which has been really cool for me. And I also...
That sounds important.
Yeah, I think they maybe exaggerated a little, but it made me feel great. And they were so open with me as well. And they were like, if you ever need anything, just text us. If you ever need a reference, feel free to ask us, which has been really great of them, and still super excited to continue working with them. And the next one, Eclipse Brand Partners, she kind of gave me a trial run, which was really cool. And what I really liked was when I sent her my initial email explaining who I was, she was probably the one that was the most excited response I've ever gotten, because she was, for some reason, like super impressed that I would email her at all, which I thought was a little rare because everyone at Hamilton is taught to do that. But she was like, I've never gotten that before. And I think it shows so much like initiative on your part. And I'm just really impressed. So, and she gave me a trial run where where I was going to do survey data work, where I basically just went through different surveys and reported back the results. She liked what she saw. And now I'm the manager of their social media. And I also do, side projects she has for me. And I just remember, I don't think I'll ever forget that she was just so impressed. And I was like, oh, well, I've done this with a bunch of different organizations, but thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. Oh, sorry.
No, Janine, I wanted to just add a note. I think these stories and these experiences are great, and actually reinforces one of the statistics we have about students and the internship experiences that you've had. So just so our guests know, about 81% of our seniors will have had 2 internships by the time they graduate, and 97% of our seniors will have at least 1. And basically from Rose, Anna's, and Ian's, they've already hit the 2 and heading into the 3 and the 4th. So definitely, I don't think that they are anomalies or outliers in any way. I think it seems to be the common trend about the opportunities to have that hands-on practical experience. And one of the comments that Rose made was just like, these are things that you were trained to do. The idea of communication, the connecting, which you talked about, Janine. You really, all of 3 of you have been showing a lot of really great tangible examples of how you've maximized that, but also really applied it to your experiential work during the school year and also during the summer.
Peaches, you took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, I couldn't have scripted you folks better in terms of our model is really based on teaching skills that people, not just students, will use over and over in their life, right? You give someone an opportunity, they've gotten an opportunity, you teach them how to seek it, and they can do that at every turn, every time they ever want to transition, apply for something, make a new connection, advance. And I'm just, it's so exciting to see people talk about those experiences along the way, people I've known since their first year, talk about how they applied those skills along the way at each step. And so I want to address a couple of the questions that I know have come up. One of the questions were about whether these internships happen during summer breaks. And I think that's the case for all of them that we talked about today. Maybe we'll open it up in a little bit to highlight anything you've done during the school year that also felt career related, but I want to be respectful of time. One of the questions along those same lines, will it be difficult to balance athletics with an internship? So in that 97% and that 81%, those are, I'd say, like 99% summer opportunities that people have. And so that's what we think about, kind of a full-time career-related experience, even though some people will have jobs on campus that they consider career-related, or an experiential element of a course that they're doing that's career-related, or volunteer work that they regularly do. And so people will do career-related things over the course of a year if it works in their schedule, which sometimes for athletes it really does. And sometimes they need to section off their time a little differently when they're in season. But these experiences are made possible during people's summers when they can really devote their time to it. And I'm going to answer one more question before I pose one more to the group. And that's a pretty specific question that asks whether we've found internships in areas like astronomy or aerospace, like at organizations like NASA. So I think that this is a great question. And I will say, I'm going to backtrack a little bit to the idea that we teach skills. We don't necessarily have and give opportunities. But one of those really important skills is networking, learning from people who are out there in the world, who know a lot about their field and their organization, and can help give insight about what's going to make you a great fit for that. So I know personally a couple of alums at NASA who I frequently refer people to for conversations, right? How did you build the skills to get there? How did you decide on your coursework? What does NASA look for in their entry-level candidates or in their internship candidates? So asking people those sorts of questions absolutely sets you apart in the application and an interview process. And so that's part of, name any organization. I can't promise that we have a listing for them, but I can promise that someone in that field, even if it's not at that organization, can help you learn enough that you present yourself as a better candidate, and can help you gain kind of break-in experiences, right? NASA is not probably an opportunity that a first year is going to get, but we can help you think about, okay, what can you create that first summer that's going to give you those prerequisite skills to be able to do that in your rising junior or rising senior summer. Okay, I'll address a couple more questions in a minute, but first I want to ask the students, I'm going to combine the last two questions if that's okay with you. So one of them is about how you used resources at the Career Center, and I think many of you already highlighted those, but you're welcome to chime in a little more. But I also wondered kind of what's your favorite thing that our Career Center does, or what do you think sets it apart from other schools you've heard about or from what you expected?
Yeah, so I think that, so I've used like everything at the Career Center. I have used the peer advisors every time I'm applying for something. I have a peer advisor look over my resume, look over my cover letter, networking emails. One thing that's really cool is that the peer advisors are really trained very well, I think. And so like when you're applying for a job, they'll help you target all of your application materials for that job. And so you might think I might think I have a really great resume, but this job requires me to place things differently in the resume and like highlight things differently. And the peer advisors will spend an hour with you, like just on that document and really, really involved with you. And so like, I think that the overarching theme of everything I'm about to say is just like, it's very personalized, and yet like there's something for you to do every single step of your Hamilton experience from the time you're a freshman to a senior. And so like there are workshops specific for freshmen, specific for seniors, specific for people wanting interview prep, or specific for someone who like has no idea what they want to go into. And I think that's really cool. And I might say that that's my favorite. It's not like a specific thing that we do, but it's just kind of like something that I know my friends from high school who go to maybe really big schools or any other school, I haven't heard of that amount of like personalization that we have. I think also Janine talked about networking a lot. And I think all of us we all connected with people to get the things that we ended up getting. And the Career Center focuses so much on networking. Like, how to have an informational interview after your first like workshop, basically, that you attend. I mean, maybe not first, maybe second. But it's like, I've had countless informational interviews, just like, it's so helpful that I can have a 20-minute phone conversation and realize I don't want to go into that field probably, and then spend the time really focusing on the things that I do want to focus on. And so, yeah, I think that peer advisors, the networking focus, and then the last thing is the career advisors. You can make an appointment with them whenever you want. They know you. I've known my career advisor since freshman year, of course, and he like will direct me any place I need to think about going. So yeah, that was a lot, but I mean, I like a lot of things about the Career Center. So yeah.
Yeah, jumping off what Anna said, I think for me, I've never been to any other school's career center, so I'm just gonna say what I love about Hamilton's career center. So I remember the first time I walked in there, I saw there was a student working there, and I saw there was a coffee machine there. I was like, I wish I can get to work here, but I can always have that coffee machine there. And one semester later, I actually began to work there. But other than that, I think the career advisor, I love the interactions I have with my career advisor because they are very casual in the sense that it's not really formal. It's more of we just sit down and talk about how life is going from all aspects, not necessarily career wise. And we come back together at the end of the day and we reflect on that. Like the reflective aspect of it is very prevalent in very many programs that the Career Center does. And it's a very good of you to think about what you're doing, what you've done, and what you'd like to do in the future. So like I really love that aspect of it. And I also like the peer advisor aspect of it. So whether I'm the one who's getting advice from my fellow peer advisor or I'm the one who's advising students, I love being on both ends of the spectrum because there's always something new to learn. You can always learn how to write, let's say, how to write your name well, how to format your resume better, how there's so many things to learn every new day, either from, let's say, the person who's guiding you or the person that you're guiding. And I think those two aspects for me make the Career Center very wholesome. It's one of my favorite places on campus.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've used the peer advisors more times than I can remember at this point, and I've just never had a bad experience. And every time I go, like Ian said, I learned something new. Like there'll be like a little detail in my formatting that's like, oh, fix this. It looks nicer. Like that's more official. And I'll be like, oh, cool. I never would have known that otherwise, you know? And again, to add to the personalization aspect, which Anna talked about, they sit there with you and they really like go through it, they annotate it, and they ask you at the end of it while you're discussing your resume and your different activities, they really ask you questions that make you think critically about the jobs you've done and what skills did you actually learn. Like, okay, for example, I wrote marketing papers, marketing posters for them, and they're like, okay, but what skills did you learn? Like, think of a word that encapsulates that experience. That's an action word, they call it. So a verb of some sort that like implement, for example, like a powerful, strong word that really grabs the attention and helps target them and helps make you seem like someone who takes initiative, someone who takes action, someone who would be a great candidate for whatever job you're applying for. And we also just have a really great different resources from not just the resume, not just the cover letter, not just the forms, but on campus. For example, I'm one of the planners to plan different events on campus. So we bring alumni to campus, or we used to. That's going to change a little, but we basically get in touch with alumni and we connect them to students, and it's just really exciting because people get really excited about those different personalized opportunities. I remember I work on a division that focuses on helping people come into contact with careers in the communications division. And we hosted a publishing panel once. And I remember I had a friend and she was so excited for this panel. And she was so excited for the opportunity to talk to people in the industry from different, levels of the industry. And I just remember, coming out of that feeling very rewarded that I worked for the Career Center. And also I was excited because I wanted publishing, and it was kind of just a dream seeing myself excited about it and seeing everyone else around me excited about it and seeing how, interested the students were in their careers. And it really pushes us to think about what we want early on, because, you don't want to be late in the game for any of this, or it's best to be proactive about it at the end of the day. And the Career Center really pushes us to do that.
Thank you, Rose. You highlighted an elephant in the Zoom or the YouTube, which I think is an important thing. I know that you folks aren't coming to join us in this coming year when we know that the world is a little bit wonky with a global pandemic happening. But our operations for this year have had to pivot, and I am so proud of how every student and every staff member who works for our office has thought about how to capture the spirit and the engagement and everything we do in different forms in this coming year. And I think that there are going to be things that come out of it that make our programming even better in future years. One of those things is, the panels that we do with alumni have been all virtual for, the past several months. And for us, that really helps attract people from all over the world a little more, who wouldn't necessarily be able to easily travel to Clinton, New York, which provides more opportunity. And kind of as we're mastering these different ways to engage with people, I think that some of those concepts that we've learned from will kind of seep into our regular practice. There are elements certainly of the peer advisors and the workshops that they do that the virtual presence has just been tremendous with. And so I think challenges are good opportunities for us to innovate. And I think amongst our peers, I find that we're one of the most innovative offices, and certainly one of them that uses our student staff in a more in-depth way than any other office I've seen. So my understanding is a couple of the questions that were asked in the chat have been answered in the chat. I'm happy to, and I think the other students are happy to field any other questions. What do you folks want to add? Anything that we've missed? What do you wish you had known when you were applying to schools about, career development there, or?
I can go. I think one thing that I wish I had known, and I feel really grateful that I ended up at a place like Hamilton, is how important getting close to professors was going to be, because I'm an economics major and a history minor, and there's one economics professor and one history professor that I've gotten really close with, and we talk about my career. Like, that's one thing that I'll sometimes talk about in office hours with them, and they're, like, to me, just as important as my career advisor. And I think that that's so cool. Like, the office hours, just, yeah, that honestly is something career related that I didn't ever think about before.
For me, I'd say probably everything. But if I was to point out a particular thing, I'd say networking, because I'm not really, like, my personality is not that extroverted. I'm more the person who keeps to themselves. But then it comes a time where you have to, like, actually go out of your comfort zone and meet people, because you actually have to learn from them and learn how they got to that place. And you can't really do that if you keep to yourself. So I think coming here, that has been one of the greatest lessons I've come to learn, like how to reach out to people, talk to them, have a conversation about like their skills and everything, their stories, their career paths, so just networking in general.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm in the same boat as Ian when it comes to my personality, and the idea of networking used to really terrify me when I began. But I think part of the reason that I'm more comfortable with it now is because I started so early. So I got, practice knowing what it is. I, was able to meet with peer advisors and the peer advisors, and they, first of all, they relax me. They're like, calm down. It's going to be okay. They're just people, But because I've had so many informational interviews at this point, because I learned how to do it early on, and I wanted to be proactive about my future career, and they encourage you to be proactive about your future career, you learn to do an information interview pretty fast. At this point, I was so scared the first time I ever did it, and I was so worried I would come off in a certain way. but you eventually just get used to it. And now if someone asks you information, then you're like, okay, let me just email them, see what they say, have a great call, and just be as polite and amazing as possible. And I trust in my training at this point that it'll be a breeze, or it'll, be helpful in some way, shape, or form.
And actually, Rose, that's a great way to end this evening. I think one of the things that all of you have talked about is really how you found your voice through this process, and not just about finding your future career, but also finding yourself as a scholar and a member of a community. And I think one of the things that's really impressive to me as I've learned more about the Career Center is the fact that students don't come at any type of disadvantage in many ways. It's all about building up your strengths. And so whether you are traditionally introverted, you're an extrovert, the idea is really to kind of build on that and look at areas to enhance, and not necessarily find that you are lacking in any way. It's about helping you really build on the strengths that you already have. And so, so I actually, wanted to thank all of you for participating this evening, and sharing your stories and showing about the highlights, but also what makes this program very distinct in comparison to other institutions. I also wanted to thank our guests for joining us this evening, and I hope you enjoyed our discussion. We definitely appreciate your patience and flexibility, especially during our technical difficulties. And if you'd like to stay connected with us and learn more about our community, please visit hamilton.edu/discover. This page is going to be updated regularly with new virtual event offerings, including this one. We'll post this one later tomorrow, and we'll invite you via our email. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. We hope you had a great night, and we look forward to learning more about you in the upcoming months. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.